Here we are. Hello. Hello, I'm
Hey.
Lezlie Harrison. I'm the host of a show here on WBGO called Come Sunday on WBGO 88.3 FM and WBGO.org. It is my pleasure to meet and to welcome to WBGO world renowned jazz, pop, soul, funk, saxophonist. You know, those titles all come precede you're a saxophonist.
Well,
Candy Dulfer.
hi.
Welcome.
So
Welcome.
happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us. You've got a new album out that just dropped last week called
Yep.
We Never Stop, and you're about to embark, if you're not already on, your world tour. So
Yes.
before we talk about a little bit about that, let's catch up with you. I've been a fan of yours for a very, very long time, so I'm very excited to talk
Wow.
to you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You grew up in Amsterdam around jazz at a very early age.
Yeah.
You gathered a lot of experiences from some very serious jazz heavy hitters, including your father,
Yeah.
Hans Dulfer.
Yeah.
You also got some experience from Dexter Gordon and Archie Shepp. Not having any female saxophonists to look up to, what gravitated you towards the instrument? How
Well,
was
that's a great question, actually. But I think those people like Dexter Gordon, they were around me when I was a baby. So it
Mhm.
wasn't really like they taught
Okay.
me something. And Archie Shepp was there a lot. I just remember them being very sweet. And Dexter Gordon, I don't even know for sure, but he used to frequent our house because my dad would also organize concerts and all these
Mhm.
greats came by. John McLaughlin, the great guitarist. So I was
Right.
very blessed to have a surrounding like that. But I was very fortunate because, like you say, there were, or there still aren't a lot of female saxophone players. But there was an American lady called Rosa King who came from Georgia, Macon, Georgia, and she moved to Amsterdam when I was a baby, and she became friends with my uh, parents. And she was an amazing blues and jazz artist, singer, and saxophone player. And aside from my dad being the major influence and all that music that was around me, all these amazing musicians, I count her as one of the most influential for me because suddenly there was this wonderful lady who could play a mean sax and sing and had the blues and was a band leader. That was also very important.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
she was one of my most, yeah, and she was so lovely. She asked me in her band when I was only 12 years old, and I played the North Sea Jazz Festival with her. It's like, and she gave me all those first opportunities. So I would first say my dad, then it was Rosa King, and then not much later, when I was 13 years old, I saw Sheila E. perform in Paradiso in Amsterdam, and that changed my whole life. That turned my whole world upside down.
As I'm sure a lot of young girls are getting their lives changed by witnessing you.
Wow.
In a career of yours, your career has spanned like 30 plus years, and you have worked with some of the biggest names in the business, including Mavis Staples, Beyonce, and of course, Prince.
Prince.
What
Yeah.
was that experience like, and how did that help you grow as a musician?
Well, it's just hard to say in words because Prince was I was such a big fan of him before I even met him. So I also think that a lot of the stuff that I learned from him, I just learned by listening to his music and being a bit, huge fan of his music. But there's more to Prince, like and I noticed that he always had a soft spot for female musicians. He really did something
Absolutely.
for female empowerment. So that was already planting these seeds in my brain. So at one point, it's a long story, and I won't tell it because it's too long. But at one point, I got the crazy opportunity as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old to be in his support act only in the Netherlands, 2 shows. It's a very long story, but it got canceled right before my first appearance. And I thought it was his fault. So I was really mad at him. I thought these big stars, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So I wrote him a little note and I said, why don't you let us play? Musicians should be loyal to each other because that's what my dad taught me. And I said, you miss a chance to see a girl blow her ass off on the saxophone. And I was so shy back then, but something in me said I should write this note. I gave it to his manager. He didn't even want to take it. He thought I was some crazy fan. And then I saw Sheila E. walk by, who I had never met. I gave her the letter, and the rest is history. And she gave it to Prince, and she said, I don't know, but there's this crazy girl out there. She's pretty mad. I think you should let her play. And that's how I got to work with
That's a
Prince.
wonderful story. That
So
the
yeah, I
short
love
version
that.
of it.
Yeah,
I would love to hear the long version, but we only
well,
have a
this is
little
quite
bit.
long already, but yeah, it's longer and it's a cool story. But it just shows to say that you need a women in a woman in your corner, like my mom or like Sheila, who did so much for me. And but you also need men to see, how great it is to involve female musicians, female artists. And he was one of those rare people that really understood it even back then and gave me that huge opportunity.
Yeah, well, we thank him for that.
Me too. Yeah,
We
I
thank
do.
him. Candy, we have to imagine, like the rest of us, these last 2 years have been just challenging on so many levels.
Yeah.
How did the pandemic play out for you and for your music?
Well, I have to say, personally, not so good. But unfortunately, there were things so much worse in the whole world happening, that and so much more important. But as somebody who loves to play live, that's my whole life. Just
Right,
being on stage, much more even than making albums, which I love. But that's if I had to trade, gun to my head, it would be live playing. So for me to not do that, I questioned my whole existence. I missed the thing I missed most was the communication between your friends, your musicians, and the audience. I really missed that. I'm so used from being 12 years old every night to looking at now maybe 100 faces or more or 1,000, and to seeing eye contact, and most of all seeing that music can connect people. We can be an audience, and I'm pretty sure we don't have the same opinions about things, and we come from different backgrounds. But just that one song can make us all fall in love with each other. And yeah, not having that, I thought it was pretty difficult. But then all these stories, all the things that happened in the world, made it really, how do you say it? I was
yeah,
like,
it
oh,
was it
this is
was
not.
challenging. I mean, we
Yeah,
work in this music of this business of music, and like yourself, I'm a musician, and I thrive on the live audience. And
yeah,
so suddenly we were just stuck at home with our computers,
yeah.
and you had to jazz in the kitchen or hang out in the kitchen with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it's a kitchen music challenge, and I mean, everybody was, people were saying who were not in the music business, like, "Oh, you musicians, you guys are so creative," and then I said, "Yeah, but that is what we've been doing all our lives. If it doesn't go this way, we go that way." So somebody telling us, "Okay, now you have to stay home. Nobody can ever play
Right,
music again." That's not the end of music. We
right.
will find a way. So there were, I mean, I wasn't even that smart. There were people that had even
Yeah, there
way
were some incredible things going on, right?
incredible. Yeah, so I'm always proud of the musical community. And there's also another thing that I have to admit, which I hate because I don't like to say that anything good came out of COVID. But the one thing that really helped me or was positive in my mind is that I was always used to, if I recorded stuff like this album, I had started before COVID on this album. I needed to go to the studio, have other people record me, mix it, blah blah blah. And I always thought, I don't think I'm dumb, but I thought it's too late for me to start learning all that stuff and, let other people do it. But then suddenly I had to. So what the saxophone you hear on this and a lot of the stuff that we recorded, vocals, blah, 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 that's all done in the bedroom of Candy Dulfer, and it sounds better than ever.
Wow. Well, let's talk about your new record. You started your first recording was back in 1990 with Sexuality, and
Yes,
you have amassed about 12 albums now as a leader, including your newest album, We Never Stop, in which you collaborated with a chic guitarist. He's
yeah,
chic and swinging, producer and three-time Grammy Award winner, Nile Rodgers. And
yes.
by the way, you have a song on there called Jammin' Tonight. That is my new workout song. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
I love it. Yeah, it
So
was.
tell us how this funky union came about, because it is indeed a funky recording. I love it.
Now, this was, one of the highlights in the COVID period because, as you can imagine, I've been a fan of Nile Rodgers. I don't know if he even knows this, but I had a little dance club when I was 6 years old, and I terrorized all the neighborhood girls to come into this dance club with me, and we would dance to Le Freak. That was it, and we were called Le Freak. And all that music, from Diana Ross, all the stuff that he did, David Bowie. And so when somebody said from the record company, they said, "So we want you to have some special guests on the album," and I'm always like, "Yeah, I like that, but I want it to be organic and real, and needed on the songs, like not just some collaboration that just has been put
Mhm.
together in a business sense." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, so who?" And then they said, "Well, Nile Rodgers should be good." I said, "Yeah, who doesn't want Nile Rodgers on his album?" I said, "But I don't know if he doesn't want it, if he feels, why would he?" And then they said, "Oh no, no, he's sitting next to me." And I just told him, "We've signed you," and he's talking my ear off. So I was like, "Oh, he knows I exist. What is this?" And then we got to talk. Now, yeah, you can imagine, like you as a musician and a human being in COVID sitting outside. When Nile Rodgers calls you at Wednesday night,
Hello.
it's kind of a up, you know, that
Yes.
just lifted my spirits very much. And then, yeah, he's just an amazing person. He's so open, so easygoing. It was like talking to an old friend. After COVID, I met him, and then we had already recorded everything. It's on the record, and I hugged him, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute! This is the first time I ever seen you in real life, so close." He said, "Oh yeah, I didn't realize that." He's so open that even through, the computer, we got to feel like friends, and he's so funny. He said, "When is your birthday?" I said, "Well, September 19th." He goes, "No way! What's wrong?" "I'm September 19 as well." I said, "But not 69 like me." He said, "No, but it's incredible that we align." And that's why he made the song Convergency. He said, "This is meant,
Oh,
written in the stars." And I was like, if somebody like him can be so enthusiastic about a shared birthday, how much love does this guy have in
well,
his
that's
his
that's a
bones?
lot of
So
funk on that day.
I know. So the cool thing is, just to be short, he wrote a beautiful song for me, Convergency, and it's just beautiful. And that's the main single now. But then you love jamming tonight, so
I
it was
love
done.
jamming
And
tonight.
yeah, and then I said, so Niall, can I ask you, could you write another song? And he said, "Yeah, don't you like the first one?" I said, "No, I love it, but I had hoped also for a song that would just be chic and a saxophone." And he said, "Oh, okay." Next day, I had it in my mail, and it was done. So it's
Well,
so
it's
sweet.
jamming. And I thank you for my workout this morning, and I will
Yes.
continue with it. Um, and you also have Philippe Sace on Convergency. I believe I saw that
Yeah.
in the video. Really
And that was
funky.
a big surprise because I've been a big fan of his also because of his work with David Sanborn, who's my favorite saxophone
Mhm.
player. And then suddenly said, "Yeah, Philippe knows you." We knew, and I said, "What? Are you working with him?" So I got bonus. I got two for the price of one.
Oh, cool. Well, no, it's great, and we look forward to playing it on WBGO. You have
Thank you.
said that "We Never Stop" is a personal album to you. Is that because of just the whole COVID, the creation of the album, the concept of it during COVID?
Yeah, I think it was my mantra, so to speak, sometimes because on the one hand, I know I have to be the positive force, and that's what I want to be, and that's what I aim for. With music, that's what we do. We need to lift other people's spirits up. But I had, I was negative at one point, also like, "Oh my God, are we ever gonna? Is this world coming to an end? What's happening? Everything, not just
Yeah,
COVID, everything that came to light. So We Never Stop was meant for people, but also for myself sometimes. Like, okay, we got to keep going. And it's not about just musicians and COVID. It's about like, okay, sometimes it just feels like, are there any good people on earth left? What happened in this? What did we do this lifetime to make the world such a big mess, so awful for so many people? And then, but yeah, if you give into that, you better do that, and
yeah.
and it's my place to do that. So
Well,
that's the whole thing. We Never Stop, and you can see it a little bit on the cover. I put a lot of the things that were happening during COVID on it, and it's hard for me to express myself in words sometimes. That's not my job. I'm a saxophone player, so I was
right.
very fortunate to work with a great singer who writes beautiful lyrics. But the things that I wanted to speak out on, whether it was like this or singing, are on the album, and maybe they're not even strong enough, but this is what I felt needed, to be said.
Well, it's beautiful, and we thank you. Candy, you have inspired a generation of young female saxophonists. I think of Chelsea Barrett's, Camille Thurman, Melissa Aldana, Tia Fuller, just to name a few, because back when I first heard you, there weren't many female saxophonists that I could pull out of a hat like that. Um, just to name a few of those, speaking of those saxophone players, um, you're still finding, and they're still finding their groove in what is still a male-dominated playing field. What advice would you give to young and up-and-coming women musicians who are really out here making a name for themselves, but still dealing in this male-dominated field?
Yeah, I think the thing is, there's so many like when I started, I was also in a way lucky that there weren't so many female saxophonists. It made me stand out even more. So now you see all these girls, and they're not just a little good, like great, or like I was in the beginning, like, okay, she has talent, or she can play maybe with the big guys, but they are like amazing. Just the name, like Camille
Mhm.
Thurman. What is that? Where did that come from? I don't think that has anything to do with me. It's just our changing times, that people, they learn, and people are, they know the value of music, and they know that once we're going to start it, it's not a hobby anymore. This is what you do with all your heart and soul and your mind. And these women, uh, we've been held back for a long time. As you probably know, in the 30s and the 40s, especially in America, these huge big bands with all these ladies who were so good. And then the Second World War came and all that stuff. And I think that sort of took the wind out of the women movement in music. But so it was about time that it came back. But I'm so happy. I don't know if I have anything to do with it, but what I
Well,
always hope is that people see that you and your instrument, that's a given. You can have that anywhere. It doesn't have to be on a huge stage. It doesn't have to be in some kind of studio. You in your own room, it has the same value. It's so important that you enjoy music first, and that you know what you want to learn on an instrument or with your vocals, and if after that comes success, I so hope that for everybody. But the thing is, you first have to be confident about what you want to achieve and what you do, and then get as much protection around you as you can, because that was my saving grace. I had Prince, I had Maceo Parker, I had Sheila E. who had my father, my mom who traveled with me everywhere. Nothing really bad ever happened to me, although I brushed against it.
mhm.
So I have to admit that for a while I was like, just be a good player, and don't mind so much, then the guys will accept you. But I know much more right now that it's way more difficult if you don't have a force field around you. So try to make friends, try to get, play with guys and make them see you, and make them form, something around you, a safe place that you can hone your craft in. And you would be surprised how many guys are so sweet and so giving. And there is a glass ceiling sometimes, but I have to say, even the biggest macho guys that I ever encountered, in the end, they were all rooting for me. And that's just, you have to also think of that. There's good in the world.
Yeah,
So
I think that comes with just perfecting and honing your craft
yeah,
and being the best at it, and then you can compete on any field with anybody if you're
yeah,
that confident.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that advice, and I'm sure the young women listening are thanking you for that as well. So you are embarking. Are you embarking on a European tour? Or are you already in the middle of your tour to promote your the new record? We never stop.
Yeah, well, I was lucky because I play in different parts of the world. So when
Right.
Holland was still closed down, they asked me in Hungary to do a festival for 7,000 people last year already. And we were like, what? So every time I could go. So we've been playing the new repertoire for a while now because we couldn't wait. We just love being on stage again so much. But this is from last week. We've really gone on a big tour, and we're going to Europe. I'm going to Japan finally again after 3 years. Normally I'm there every year, so I'm so excited. And then in the spring of next year, I'll be doing Punta Cana. I'll do the smooth jazz cruises. There's so much, and I'm coming to the States in the
Yeah.
summer. And I'm going to do a
Okay.
long tour
Good.
together with a certain gentleman on the saxophone. It's not announced yet, but it's a very special
Can you
tour.
give us initials? No.
Maybe a D, maybe a D. He's the first,
Okay.
and it's going to be so great. So I'll be much more in the States than I've been the last 5 years. So I really look
Oh,
forward to it.
good. Well, we look forward to you, and we thank you so much for coming by WBGO today. And thank you, and
Thank
good luck
you.
with the new record.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
we look forward to playing it here at WBGO.
Well,
And
thank you.
the record is available. We Never Stop. It's available across all platforms. Candy Dulfer, thank you for stopping by today at WBGO,
You're
and
welcome.
all the
Thank you.
best and with the music and on the tour with the album. And I'm Lezlie Harrison. Thank you for listening today. Thank you to Jamara Wakefield. Let me turn off my phone for producing. And thank you for your support of WBGO. Thank you so much, Candy.
Thank you. Take care, Lezlie. Thank
Ciao.
you.
Okay. Bye bye.